Hey folks, Todd Martin here, your local Louisville real estate broker, coming to you live from the headquarters of Amped Realty in Louisville, Kentucky, where we are going on our talks with Todd on Tuesdays at 12, or what we like to call them is T3. And I think today, and of course, those of you that have been with me for a while know that JC stepped in for Gabby to help us out, and he's going to keep me on track. As some of you, again, may or may not know, I like to talk. So he's going to help me stay on task today on this beautiful sunny day as we're shooting here. Wishing I was outside and not at work, but that's how it goes. You know, we sacrifice so we can enjoy the things that we like in our hobbies on our off time. But today, I think we're going to be talking a little bit about buying and selling kind of at the same time. So with that intro, I'm going to let JC take over and see kind of what questions we've got or what people were thinking with regards to this topic. So JC, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, so the first question that came to mind was, if I'm buying and selling a home at the same time, what should my first step be?
Right. So that's a really good question with regards to buying and selling. And I think the answer to that is it depends, right? It depends on what your personal situation is. So let's take a step back and let's look at a huge view of buying and selling at the same time. Now, obviously, that can definitely bring some stress to you and be a stressful situation, but you have to be prepared for that. So I think the first thing that you want to do is you want to look at the big picture, okay? And again, individual situations. Are you moving with a family or without family? Now, we see different situations where we have individuals that are buying and selling. We have partners that are buying and selling together without families, and then we see whole families. So really, you've got to kind of have a plan of attack. And probably your best way to do this plan of attack is first and foremost is call your realtor and sit down. Hey, Pat, you want to wave hi to everybody?
No, am I? I'll crawl around for the next half hour.
So, hey, everybody, that's Pat. Pat helps me out tremendously around here. If you haven't had a chance to meet her, I'm sure you will here shortly. But we're laughing. But anyway, but really sit down with your agent, with your realtor, and talk to them about the big picture and the strategy. Now, a couple of things that you want to think about, are you looking, and ideally, would you like to sell and buy and move out and move in all within the same period of time? Do you have time to sell and wait it out as you're looking and then purchase? In other words, you're going to do a double move. Do you have an idea where you're going to stick all your stuff from one house before you can get into the other house? In other words, do you need something temporarily like a temporarily pod type storage or a storage facility? Do you have friends or family in the area that have allowed you to are going to allow you to maybe shack up with them for a few weeks while you're in transition? These are the things that you have to think of. Temporary housing. Are you looking at maybe an Airbnb for a few weeks and getting things out? Now, with the market being as hot as it is in the summer seasons, we know that a lot of sellers obviously want to sell their house. And if you're in the process of buying and selling as well, you've got to understand when you're coming at it from a buyer's standpoint, that if you're in a situation, again, life happens where you're buying and selling and moving on. Dealing with contingencies on the seller side can be very, very difficult. So if you look at or want to get a contingency in place, one of the strategies or suggestions is to actually go ahead and get your house on the market first, get it under contract, and then get that house so you can do a contingency. So you can look at, hey, I'm serious about this. I don't have anywhere else to go. My house is under contract, and now I'm looking to buy. So most sellers, and I'm sure yourself as well, if you're going to buy and sell, would like to see that, or ideally without a contract without a contingency contract, even more possible. And again, that's kind of a look at the big financial picture as well. And those are strategies that you can talk. And we've got some tips and tricks as realtors of the trade that can show you how to make, again, a smooth transition. But you've got to factor some time frames in there, just in case you have some what ifs that pop up, right? So again, be prepared for kind of a quick and fast paced journey, but also know that, preparedness will definitely help you out, because it's never a problem till it's a problem, right? So, I mean, with that, JC, does that pretty much answer really kind of where you should start? Again, kind of taking a look back at the big picture and maybe bringing the professionals in to talk about, what they've seen as far as their experiences.
No, yeah, it definitely does. I know you even, as far as like my next question, you even elaborated on that, and as far as making the transition a little bit more smooth. I guess, is there anything else as far as what suggestions that you have to make it a little bit more smooth? I know you kind of hit on a few things there, as far as working with maybe the agent themselves.
Well, sure. Well, and you think about this too, right? So as your realtor, we're going to help you to list the property, and we're going to help you buy the property, right? So again, when we look at kind of the smooth transition, we're going to know exactly how the contract, once you get your property for sale under contract, okay, we're going to know exactly what and how that contract is written, and helping you move into the purchase side or the buy side, regardless of whether you're upsizing or downsizing. But really, as far as a smooth transition goes, understand this, in real estate can kind of come up on you fast. And I tell a lot of my clients, kind of jokingly, but a little bit serious too. It's like, life happens, right? And, is there ever really the perfect time to go on vacation? Is there ever really the perfect time to start a family? Is there ever really the perfect time to move? No, you just kind of ebb and flow with that. So again, kind of going back to your what ifs, you're going to build in a little bit of time. Think of it for anybody that's ever bought a new construction house. And especially if you've built from the ground up and you haven't gotten one that's already had the roof on it, that you run into things like nature and natural disasters and heavy rains and high winds and things that can't be done, or deliveries that aren't made on time, right? So again, for smoothness sake, build in extra time into that factor. Okay, don't put, just like they tell you in pretty much everything in life, don't put everything in one basket, but have contingency plans. And I think your contingency plan is going to be the biggest thing. And that is whether or not you've already rented a place, or whether you've decided to move in with mom for, a week or a month, until you can find that next place. But again, kind of being smooth, the biggest tip I can give you on being smooth is contingency plan and add in a little bit of extra time. So that's kind of how that's gonna keep you prepared. Make sense?
Yeah, very much so. And then, I mean, if the process, everything's going good, as far as working with your agent, you have an idea. Kind of the last question I have for you would be, how do I determine which finance, option would work best for me in this particular situation?
Sure. Okay. So if you look back at again, kind of the broad picture on what you're trying to find or what you're trying to accomplish, is this a situation where you're starting out and you want to keep this house to move up to the next level, right? And I find a lot, that's kind of how they start their real estate portfolio. But again, that's a topic for another time. But if you're doing that, one of the things that would be in your favor for financing is if you decide to sell before you buy and you're going to keep that house. Obviously, you want to check in with your local financing company. And, of course, we work very closely with our buddies over at UFG Lending, can give you kind of a synopsis of, what is it that you need to have in order to be able to float two mortgages. Now, if you're renting out your property and you've already sold it and you have a year contract for a lease, that will actually help you within your mortgage, right? So again, they're going to look at that as income coming in, as long as you're not having to pay, as long as your mortgage isn't above what that rental income is, you should be okay. Again, that's going to be seen as income, so that's going to be in your favor. And you should be able to do that. Now, the other thing is a lot of people do a traditional bridge loan where you basically have a full mortgage on the house that you're buying and you still have a full mortgage on the house that you're selling. So you're basically floating two loans at the same time. That can definitely be very tricky, especially if you are the type of person that likes to put 20% down as a minimum. You may not necessarily have 20%. That may be tied up in your home, but keep this in mind. Even if you've got equity in your current home, don't think that you can borrow that equity to put that money down on that new house, simply because that's going to go against you, and they're going to look at that debt to income ratio. Now, in some cases, you might be able to float that. Again, that's, ask your financial professional, talk to your realtor, and make sure that's okay. But here's a really good secret that I found a couple of years ago that a lot of people don't know about, and I would say this is probably the number one that my clients like to use, and that's called recasting. Okay, it's a recasting loan. So let's say, for example, you really want to put 20% down on your new house, okay, but you don't have 20% to put down until you sell your old house. So what's going to happen? Let's say you want to, you've got 5% to put down as an example. Okay, you've got enough money saved up to put 5% down on that new property. Well, again, they're going to look at it and see if you can afford both mortgages. And if they say you're fine on what the payment's going to be, then your recasting is going to be the best way to go, because then what ends up happening is you're going to take that 5% down and you're going to buy your new house, right? Now, if you have the option to move out of your current property and move into your new house, you can do that, because then you don't have to be there and get the house ready all the time for showings. But again, that's kind of looking at the big picture. But then what's going to happen is once you sell the property that you've purchased, or the property that you used to live in, you're going to be able to take that money and put that chunk down on the new house. And then they're going to do what's called a recasting, where they're going to recast that loan into the newer loan, probably with your lower interest rate, especially if you put 20% down, no PMI, right? And you're going to be able to move forward from there. So, there's some other tips and tricks that are in there. There's some VA mortgage tips that, again, it's a whole different conversation. If you're interested in that VA standpoint, from buying one house to buying the next and still being able to use your VA benefits, you've got some options there. So, again, always ask that. There's always an option. It's just a matter of which option is going to be best for you. So, again, look at it from if you're doing an investment, if you're just a traditional bridge loan, or if you're looking at the recasting possibility of it. Really, it's whatever option best suits you financially and whatever best suits you to where you feel comfortable. But again, so just kind of in a recap, JC, look at the broad picture, take a step back, get your realtor involved, put together a plan of action. That's going to be your first thing to make sure, again, looking at the big picture. Second thing is to make it go smoothly. Again, remember, add in a little bit of cushion there as far as time goes, and have a contingency plan. That's probably going to be your biggest thing, is to have that contingency plan. And the third is the financing. It just depends on really where you're comfortable in your journey of life and in real estate. So again, those three things are going to kind of make up your transition from buying and selling. And right now, while the market's hot, you've got to put your best foot forward to the sellers that are out there, the same way that somebody's going to be putting their best foot forward to you when you look to sell your property. So JC, did that pretty much cover you, man? Any other questions you've got there at the moment?
Excuse me.
Lost you on audio.
Yeah, I lost you on audio.
Oh, hey, you're back. Okay. All right.
No, that answered all the questions I had. That's all I had for you today. Your input is always appreciated. I know the viewers appreciate it too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, on our last conversation, we talked about some repairs, and you talked about windows. Are you you're looking to sell now because you just don't even want to deal with those windows? Is that it?
No,
Make it easier?
I'm always checking. Trying to check the market to see what my property's worth. That's for sure.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
That always
yeah.
works.
I don't know if I can trust the Zillow's estimates though with my
No.
place. So
No, you know better. You want to get your local agent involved.
Yep,
Don't
exactly.
trust those Zillow estimates. Those things are far off. They don't know what the market's doing. But
Yeah.
hey, JC, listen, man, I appreciate your time as always. Hey, everybody, if you have any questions whatsoever, you'd like to see something addressed in any one of these talks with Todd on Tuesday, feel free to shoot me an email directly, Todd@amped, AMPED Realty.com. Again, that's Todd@amped Realty.com. Or pick up the phone and give me a call. I'm one of those agents that likes to answer my phone and obviously talk a little bit. 502-220-4663, or the easiest way to remember is 502-220-HOME, HOME. Let's get you home. And always, if you happen to know somebody that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, do not keep us a secret. We are always happy to chat and help any way we can. So again, appreciate you guys stopping by and gals. And if we can do anything for you in the future, feel free to reach out. That's what we're here for.